My fiancée of 5 years was cheating on me. 5 years of my life, tossed aside for a childhood sweetheart, the boy from next door. It turns out my devotion was nothing more than a tool for her family to leverage for their own gain. Fine. If that's what she wants, I'll give her exactly what she deserves. A few months later, she was on her knees, begging me not to leave. I just laughed. Victoria, I hate you. You and your childhood flame can go down in flames together. Wasn't it supposed to be true love? Then why did you have him shipped off to a cartel black site in Mexico? Don't think for a second that earns you my forgiveness. I despise trash. Are you sure about this? Don't leave any loose ends. Don't worry, Dad, I said quietly, then ended the call. My assistant, standing nearby, looked puzzled. He asked cautiously, Mr. Thorne, Ms. Vance loves you so much. She hasn't left your side day or night since you were hospitalized. Are you really going to go through with this? I just grunted in response, though a bitter taste filled my mouth. Tori and I met in college and were engaged right after graduation. I was head over heels in love with her. The Thorne family's primary operations are overseas, but for her, I was determined to build a life here in the States. A week ago, I was driving to a meeting when my brakes failed. The crash was brutal. I was unconscious when they brought me to the hospital. When I woke up, Tori was slumped over my bedside, her face stained with tears. The moment she saw my eyes open, she threw herself into my arms. Alex, thank God you're okay, she sobbed. I've been so worried. If something had happened to you, I don't know what I would have done. And it was true. She hadn't left my side for days. I'd only gotten a chance to make that call just now, while she was down the hall picking up a nutritional broth our private chef had prepared. I'd barely exchanged a few words with my assistant when Tori pushed the door open. I saw it clearly. In the instant before she stepped inside, she exchanged a subtle nod with another man in the hallway. He slipped into the room right next to mine. Tori carefully blew on a spoonful of the warm broth before bringing it to my lips. You must be starving. You haven't eaten properly in days. I nodded, letting her feed me. Looking at this woman, so full of seeming tenderness, I was struck by her duplicity. She had already betrayed me. Yet here she was, playing the part of the devoted fiancé. Maybe this is just the ugly side of human nature. I'll admit, she might have loved me once, but that love was long gone, or at least it was never pure. The most bitter irony, the man in the room next door was her new plaything. He wasn't sick, of course. I'm sure he checked in just to make their little trysts more convenient. It wasn't hard to guess whose money paid for that. I recognized in the moment I woke up, but I didn't let on. If she wanted to act, I would play along. Watching them pretend not to know each other was almost comical. Just then, Tori's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, silenced the call, and continued feeding me as if nothing had happened, completely unbothered. I smiled faintly. Not going to get that. She had already muted the phone, letting it vibrate silently in her hand. No, nothing is more important than you right now. I don't want any interruptions. Her voice was as smooth as silk. He must have seen her taking care of me and gotten jealous, I thought with a humorless smile. After I finished eating, Tori stood up to clear away the containers. You should get some rest. Okay. I nodded, settling back against the pillows. I watched as she tidied everything with meticulous care before sitting quietly in the chair beside my bed. Go to sleep, Alex. I'll be right here when you wake up. I closed my eyes, and the medication soon pulled me into a heavy sleep. When I came to, the room was empty. Shaking my head to clear the fog, I felt a stiffness creeping into my bones from lying down for so long. Feeling steady enough, I decided to take a short walk down the hall. You're so reckless. Aren't you afraid Alex will find out? The man's passive-aggressive tone drifted from the next room, turning my stomach. Tori's voice was laced with smug confidence. Of course not. He has a mild concussion, and the doctor gave him something with a sedative in it. He won't wake up. Good. It's been too long. Let's make tonight special. They flirted without a care in the world. I just stood there and listened, my heart a cold, still stone. No joy, no sorrow. Tori had always been so good at hiding her tracks, but it didn't matter anymore. Soon, none of this would be hers. This was the price of betrayal. While they were wrapped up in each other next door, I lay in my bed, perfectly still. The next time I woke, morning light was streaming through the window. Tori was there, looking as devoted as ever, with a fresh breakfast. Alex, you're awake. Breakfast just arrived. You should eat while it's hot. She held the tray with that same gentle expression. I smiled and nodded, saying nothing. After I ate, I pushed myself to my feet. Alex, don't. The doctor said you need to rest. I waved her concern away. It's fine. I'm just going to walk in the hall for a bit. Lying in bed all day is making me feel like I'm seizing up. She couldn't argue, so she supported my arm as we strolled down the corridor. Whether by chance or design, we ran into the occupant of the neighboring room. His name was Julian Croft. He was handsome in a soft, polished way. The perfect model for a boy toy. He and Tori had grown up together before his family moved away. When exactly they reconnected, I didn't know or care to find out. Tori's love life was no longer my concern. Julian nodded at me, a knowing, smug smile playing on his lips. Your girlfriend really takes good care of you. How catty. To call her my girlfriend on our first meeting instead of my fiancée or any other term was a deliberate little dig. Not the brightest move. I remained expressionless, offering only a flat, I've seen you in here for a few days, he continued, feigning conversation. Are you here alone? Your girlfriend doesn't visit? Julian froze for a second before recovering. Oh, she's really busy. She comes by every night. You just must have missed her. He then deliberately flashed the watch on his wrist, sighing dramatically. She works so hard to build our future, always on the move. It pays well, but I hate seeing her so stressed. He leaned in conspiratorially. Look at this. She got it for me. Said it was an apology for work getting in the way of our time together. It's a limited edition. I stared at the watch, a scornful laugh catching in my throat. I knew the model. It was a new release, a limited run with only 3 available in the entire country. I had mentioned I liked it, and Tori had sworn she would get it for me. That evening, she came to me with a dejected look, claiming she hadn't been able to secure one. So this is what she meant. In her eyes, spending time with me was just part of her work. But now I felt strangely liberated. Tori was a brilliant actress, her facade nearly perfect. Sometimes I wondered if she had ever truly loved me, or if it was all just a calculated long con. But it didn't matter anymore. At that moment, probably fearing I'd put 2 and 2 together, Tori quickly took my arm. Alex, I'm so sorry about the watch. I just shook my head with a smile. It was only a watch. I could let it go, just like I was letting her go. Without giving Julian another chance to speak, Tori guided me away. After walking for a while, I feigned fatigue and let her help me back to my room. You're recovering well, the doctor said after his examination. We'll keep you for 1 more day of observation, but you should be cleared to go home tomorrow. The crash hadn't been as severe as it looked. Most of my injuries were superficial. The real damage was the psychological trauma from the impact. Tori asked the doctor with a worried frown. Are you sure he's okay? Shouldn't he stay a few more days, just in case? Mr. Thorne is in excellent physical condition. He'll be fine resting at home. With that, the doctor moved on to his next patient. Tori sat by my bed, her eyes fixed on me with an expression of pure adoration. A year ago, that look would have made my heart race. Her assistant arrived to pack my things. As we were leaving the room, we ran into Julian again. Leaving so soon, you're a lucky man to have a girlfriend like that. Was he still trying to get a rise out of me? Did he really think I had no temper? I gave him a look that was half smile, half sneer. Your girlfriend isn't so bad herself. A watch that costs tens of thousands, bought without a second thought. Not many people have that kind of money. Tori's face tightened, her smile becoming strained. I know how much you love watches, Alex. I'll have someone find you one in a few days. I waved my hand dismissively. Don't bother. I'm over it now. Just then my phone chimed. It was a text from my assistant. He found a new apartment for me, ready for immediate move-in. Tori, desperate to change the subject, quickly asked, Is something wrong? I slid the phone back into my pocket. Just work. Nothing urgent. She didn't press further, carefully supporting me as we walked. Julian was still behind us, calling out with false concern. Take care, you two. You look so happy. I stopped and looked at him. Had I not made myself clear? Tori, I said, my voice level. Mr. Croft's girlfriend only comes at night. He must be lonely all by himself. Why don't we stay and keep him company for a while? There are only a handful of people in Chicago who could buy that watch. I'm sure we know them. The color drained from Julian's face. Tori looked mortified. She turned on Julian, her voice sharp and hostile. Sir, we don't know you. Please stop harassing us, or we won't be so polite. With that, she practically dragged me out of the hospital. Soon, we were back at our penthouse. The housekeeper had a meal waiting for us. We had just sat down when Tori's phone rang. After a brief, quiet "Hamichim," she hung up and went back to her meal without a hint of anything being amiss. Who was that? Anything important? I asked casually. She kept her smile in place, the picture of calm. Just a little something at the office. It's not urgent. I can handle it this afternoon. I nodded. I understood perfectly. After lunch, Tori left, but not before giving me a soft kiss. Alex, once things calm down at work, we'll get married. Then she was gone. I began packing my own things to meet my assistant. If I was moving, I should at least see the place. I never expected things to be so ridiculously coincidental. As I pulled up to the new building, I saw them, Tori and Julian. They were holding hands, laughing, and talking with a real estate agent. All right, since Julian likes it, we'll take this one, I overheard her say. I smiled and turned away. Building their little love nest, were they? 4. Just a few months ago, she and I had been doing the same thing, picking out our marital home. The irony was suffocating. Perhaps the money and influence the Thorne family had given her over the years had made her believe she could do whatever she wanted. I left without a word, without confronting them. There was no point in revealing my hand early. This whole charade was about to come to its grand finale. An early curtain call would spoil the fun. I went back to the penthouse. I had to erase every trace of my life there. The wedding photos we'd already taken, the matching sets of everything couples buy, I boxed it all up and had it thrown away. 3 more days. In 3 days, Victoria Vance would face her reckoning. As I was tossing things, I paused for a moment, looking at a photo from one of our trips, a memory of happier times. I love to travel, but I hate traveling alone. Back then, Tori was genuinely swamped with work, but she always made time to come with me. I told her she didn't have to force herself. She had looked at me with those endlessly gentle eyes. I love you. Of course I want to do the things you love with you. Traveling alone is too lonely. I wouldn't want you to feel that. Now, I wonder if any of that was real, or if it was all just a means to secure my family's investments. But it was pointless to dwell on it. I didn't need a definitive answer. Some things you just know. I threw away every last photo of us together. By the time I was finished, Tori still wasn't back. I idly opened my phone. The boy toy had updated his Instagram. I clicked on it. It was a photo. Julian and Tori's hands, intertwined. I'd recognize the ring on her finger anywhere. Next to their hands was a deed to a property. The caption read, "You remember my birthday. Having you by my side is the greatest happiness." When had I first found out about Julian? It was 3 months ago. A text from an unknown number. It contained nothing but an Instagram handle. At first, I dismissed it as spam. But the text kept coming, several more over the next few days. I tried calling the number, but no one ever picked up. I texted back asking who it was, but got no reply. My curiosity piqued. I finally looked up the account. It belonged to a local guy who loved showing off his lavish lifestyle with his girlfriend. Strangely, the girlfriend's face was never in any of the pictures, but the luxury goods, the cars, the watches, the clothes, were all very real. At the time, I was just curious which family's kid was being so flashy, wondering if there was a business opportunity there. I never imagined that after carefully dissecting the photos, piecing together the clues in the background, the reflections in the glass, the familiar items, that the anonymous girlfriend would turn out to be Tori. I closed my phone and pulled out my laptop. My plan was already in motion, starting with the Vance family's overseas assets. One small misstep could have a ripple effect on the Thorne Corporation's business. There was no room for error. I didn't hear Tori come in until she wrapped her arms around me from behind, her voice a warm murmur. "What are you doing? Leave the work for later. You just got out of the hospital. You need a rest." "It's nothing. Just a deal I need to close out. I'll rest when it's done," I said, my tone flat. "Okay," she purred, pressing against me. "Don't work too hard, darling. I don't want you to be stressed." 5. What have you been busy with lately? I asked suddenly. Busy getting cozy with your old neighbor, I imagine. Victoria didn't miss a beat. It's the end of the year, so things at the company are chaotic. I feel like I haven't stopped moving. As she spoke, she produced a small box as if by magic. Inside was a limited edition wristwatch. She looked at me apologetically. Honey, I got you a gift for coming home from the hospital. Do you like it? I laughed softly. If you looked closely, you could see the cold distance in my eyes. The watch was nice, expensive, but it was a far cry from the one I had actually wanted. She had given the watch I was dreaming of to Julian, while lying and telling me it was sold out. Now, she was probably worried I'd get suspicious after seeing his, and this was her clumsy attempt at damage control. I didn't refuse it. Tori watched me put on the watch, a satisfied smile on her face. It's perfect. It looks like it was custom made for you. I looked her straight in the eye. It really is perfect. Her expression was one of deep, unwavering love. She was a hell of an actress. Looking at her face, a face I once knew better than my own, I now saw only a stranger. I had no idea what was going on in her head anymore. But it didn't matter. In the middle of the night, I felt Tori slip out of bed. I assumed she was just going to the bathroom, but a long time passed, and she didn't return. I got up to get a glass of water. As I passed her study, I heard her on the phone. Julian, I told you not to provoke my fiancé. What you did at the hospital was completely out of line. You know how much he wanted that watch, and you just had to flaunt it in his face. Without him, I have nothing. If you mess up my family's business because of this, I swear I will make you regret it. Huh, so she is capable of fear. I couldn't hear what he said, but he must have calmed her down. Okay, I'm coming over now. You just wait for me. I heard her end the call, followed by her footsteps. The moment she stepped out of the study, she saw me in the kitchen pouring water. The distance was great enough that she probably wasn't worried I'd overheard. She walked over, a guilty smile on her face. Alex, you should have just asked me to get you water. You're still recovering? You might catch a chill. I waved it off. It's nothing, just a glass of water. She looked at me, hesitating. I gave her an easy out. Is something wrong? She nodded. Something came up at the office. I have to go deal with it, but I'll be back soon. I didn't say anything, just nodded. I watched her grab her car keys and hurry out the door. Good. It was better if she wasn't here. I didn't want someone so tainted in my space. I spent the entire next day focused on work. If we were splitting up, the Thorne family was taking back everything it had given. It was a massive undertaking, but thankfully, most of the groundwork had already been laid. In the afternoon, Tori finally remembered to come home. She was carrying armfuls of shopping bags. Alex, I ordered some new clothes for you. Come see if you like them. She instructed the staff to hang the custom-tailored suits and shirts in a walk-in closet. They were all my favorite brands, my preferred styles, and the sizes were perfect. She knew me so well. The one thing she forgot is that I have zero tolerance for betrayal. A few more days passed. My assistant sent me a text. Everything is ready. In that time, I had finished packing the last of my belongings. The new clothes Tori had brought over remained untouched. All the couple items we bought together had been thrown out. There was no longer any trace of me in this penthouse. Tori, however, seemed too lost in her new romance to notice a thing. She didn't even see that the large, framed wedding portraits that had dominated the living room wall were gone. As usual, she returned home after being gone all day. Alex, I know I've been neglecting you with work being so crazy. How about we go out tonight? I booked the best table at that new revolving restaurant downtown. She then produced a gift box. It's Valentine's Day. This will probably be our last one before the wedding. We have to celebrate it right. I smiled but didn't reach for the gift. She was wrong. This wasn't our last Valentine's Day before the wedding. It was our last Valentine's Day, period. Sorry, I forgot it was today. I didn't get you anything. Tori brushed it off, leaning in to kiss my cheek. Having you is the only gift I need. The restaurant was new, with a prime location offering a panoramic view of the Chicago skyline. Alex, take a look at the menu. See if there's anything you'd like, Tori said, handing it to me. I glanced over it. Every dish was one of my favorites. She was always so thoughtful, so perfectly attuned to my tastes. I nodded and turned to look out the window. Down on the streets, couples were walking hand in hand. I slowly pulled my gaze away. Fine. One last meal. A final punctuation mark on years of my life. Tomorrow, we would be enemies. Tori watched me, a frown creasing her brow. Alex, is something on your mind lately? I feel like you've been so distant. Before I could answer, a collective gasp went up from the surrounding tables. Look, fireworks over the river. It's so romantic. I turned. In the distance, bursts of color exploded over the dark water, illuminating the night sky. They were beautiful. My phone screen lit up. It was Julian with a new Instagram post. "Thank you for the fireworks show, my love. Even though you can't be with me, I feel your love all around me." The background of his photo was unmistakably this restaurant. I scanned the room. I didn't see him, but I knew he was here. I looked at Tori. The food was arriving. She smiled back at me, and her smile felt like a razor blade. Booking 2 men at the same restaurant. Who does that? "Alex, what do you think of the fireworks? When we get married, we should have a show just like this." I just gave a non-committal Tori didn't press me about my earlier silence. She placed a piece of food on my plate, her voice soft with concern. "Alex, you don't seem happy." She looked at me intently, a flicker of anxiety in her eyes. For the first time, she seemed genuinely unsettled. She reached across the table, trying to take my hand. I looked up. "What's wrong? Is the food not to your liking?" She moved to the seat beside me, trying to lean her head on my shoulder. Perhaps it was her guilty conscience, but she didn't notice the way my body instinctively tensed, repelling her touch. As we were leaving, I saw a photo wall near the exit showcasing notable patrons. And there, smiling back at me, was a picture of Julian Croft. He wasn't with Tori, but he had the distinct air of the restaurant's owner. My brow furrowed. Was she trying to humiliate me? My breathing hitched. My frozen heart felt a sharp, piercing pain. She had brought me to a restaurant she had set up for her boy toy. How utterly, laughably pathetic. I took a deep breath. It's fine. In a few more hours, none of this will matter. Back at the penthouse, Tori's phone rang. As she stepped away to answer it, I went to take a shower. I needed to wash the feel of her touch off my skin. When I came out, she was dressed to go out again. "Alex, there's an emergency meeting at the office. I have to go, but I'll be back as soon as I can." With that, she rushed out the door. I understood. It wasn't an emergency meeting. It was a booty call. It was Valentine's Day, after all. After entertaining the fiancé, she had to go console her secret lover. By midnight, my assistant was waiting for me downstairs. Tori still hadn't returned. "Let's go." As the car disappeared into the night, Victoria Vance finally returned to an empty home. "Alex, I'm back." "Alex, where are you?" "I'm home." Tori called out again. Silence. She searched the entire penthouse, but I was nowhere to be found. In a panic, she tried my number. It went straight to voicemail. A knot of dread tightened in her stomach. After a moment, her eyes landed on a manila envelope on the coffee table. Next to it sat the watch she had given me a few days ago and the unopened Valentine's Day gift. A terrible premonition washed over her. With trembling hands, she opened the envelope. On top was a single sheet of paper. The note was brutally simple. "Victoria, we're done. The Thorne family is taking back everything it gave you." The veins on Tori's forehead bulged. "No, this is impossible," she screamed at the empty room. "You love me too much. You would never leave me." She felt as if an invisible hand was squeezing her heart, making it impossible to breathe. Why would he leave? What happened? Could it be? Did Alex find out about her and Julian? Impossible. She had been so careful. No, it can't be. She noticed there were other documents in the envelope. She frantically pulled them out. They were screenshots of text messages, the ones with nothing but Julian's Instagram handle. The sender's number was painfully familiar. It was Julian's. Her face went deathly pale. She snatched her phone and called her assistant. "Find him. Find out where Alex Thorne went. I can't lose him." An hour later, her assistant called back. "Ms. Vance, I can't find anything. The Thorne Corporation won't even take our calls." Tori hurled her phone against the wall, where it shattered. She sank to the floor, completely lost. Alex, the man who had adored her, was gone without a word. The Thorne family wasn't based in Chicago. He had stayed for her. Now, she had no idea where in the world to even begin looking for him. She pulled herself up and stumbled back into the penthouse. It was only then, as she desperately searched for any clue, that she realized he had taken everything that was his. Not a single photo, not a stray cufflink, remained. It was as if he had vanished into thin air, taking all evidence of his existence with him. The only things left behind were the gifts she had given him. All of them, neatly arranged and untouched. No, this can't be happening. Devastated, she opened her laptop and pulled up Julian's Instagram account. The moment she logged in, she collapsed. The posts were a catalog of her betrayal, and she began to shake with rage. She finally understood why Julian had sent me that text. That bastard, Tori hissed, a fire igniting in her eyes. She thought she had hidden it all so well. But I had known the whole time. I was just watching her perform. And that fireworks show, the one she was planning to replicate for our wedding, I must have been laughing at her pathetic, transparent gesture. I'm an idiot. I'm such an idiot, she sobbed, broken. Just then, she saw a new post from Julian. It was a picture of her back. Her face wasn't visible, but anyone who knew her would recognize her instantly. Tori stared at the screen, her hatred so intense she wanted to flay him alive. She had explicitly warned him, threatened him even, to never let me find out about their relationship. When she and Julian had reconnected, the nostalgia of their childhood friendship had quickly blossomed into something more. One night, after too much wine, he had tearfully confessed his love for her, swearing he could be her secret, that he would never interfere with her life with me. In a moment of weakness, she had given in. I was always so busy, and despite my best efforts to make time for her, she felt a void, a loneliness. And this was how he didn't interfere. As if on cue, Julian called. Tori answered, fighting to keep the fury out of her voice. He sounded as affectionate as ever. Tori, what are you up to? I made your favorite dish. Come over later, okay. Tori gripped the phone, his voice grating on her ears like nails on a chalkboard. She said nothing and hung up, sitting alone in the vast, silent living room. She remembered the day I proposed, how my face was lit with pure happiness. And now, she had thrown it all away. Where are you? How could you just leave me? She whispered to the empty room, tears streaming down her face. 12 no. I can't lose you, Tori muttered to herself. But maybe, deep down, she knew it was never me she was afraid of losing. It was the Thorne family's money. Her love was just the sugar coating on a bitter pill of ambition. She sat on the sofa, her panic slowly hardening into a cold, calculated resolve. The woman who had built the small Vance company into a major player was no fool. She knew that my departure was merely the calm before the storm. The Thorne Corporation's retaliation would be swift and merciless. Her phone rang again. She snatched it up, praying it was news about me. If she could find me today, maybe there was still a chance to fix this. To avoid my family's wrath, even if she couldn't win back my love. But the caller ID was Julian's. Babe, I miss you. When are you coming over? A glacial smile spread across Tori's face. Oh, you do? You miss me after just a few hours? He didn't catch the ice in her tone and continued his usual smooth talk. Of course. I'm always thinking about you. I'm completely under your spell. I can't live without you. Tori's smile widened, but it didn't reach her eyes. Good. Stay right where you are. I'm on my way. She hung up, her eyes narrowing. She was already scheming, figuring out how to use Julian to salvage the disaster he had created. He wanted to climb the social ladder? He had no idea what he was dealing with. A vicious plan began to form in her mind. She arrived at Julian's apartment shortly after. When he opened the door, he was editing a new video on his laptop, a montage of moments with her, no doubt intended as another subtle jab at me. He grinned when he saw her. Tori, you're here. Check out this video I made. You're gonna love it. Looking at him, she couldn't believe she had ever been blind to his malicious nature. He had promised not to interfere, not to get in my face. But he was just another social climber, willing to do anything for a taste of real wealth. Julian, perceptive enough to notice her mood was off, but not smart enough to know why, assumed his charm was working. So we think, Tori, you look moved. She forced a smile, masking the loathing she felt. It's great. Now, come on, I have a present for you. She took his hand and pulled him out the door. A present? What is it? You know, just having you here is enough for me, Julian said, his words a mask for the greedy calculation sparkling in his eyes. Ever since getting with Tori, his net worth had skyrocketed. Her gifts were always extravagant. It wouldn't be a surprise if I told you. Just be patient, she cooed, fighting the urge to recoil from his touch. Half an hour later, she pulled up to a nondescript house in an industrial part of the city. Julian, still giddy with anticipation, didn't notice anything was wrong until they were inside. The surprise was a group of rough-looking men covered in tattoos. His face fell. Tori, what is this? She shrugged. Your surprise? You're going with them. The look on his face was priceless. Even a fool like him could see this was no gift. Tori, maybe we should just go back. Before he could finish, she kicked the back of his knee hard. He cried out and collapsed, and the men instantly pinned him to the floor. Someone stuffed a rag in his mouth. Tori stood over him, her expression grim. Julian, you idiot. You just had to provoke Alex, didn't you? After I told you what would happen. She brought the heel of her shoe down hard on his head. Do you have any idea what you've done? You've probably ruined the Vance Corporation. Since you've ruined my life, I'll use you to beg for Alex's forgiveness. With a final, vicious kick, she turned and walked away. An hour later, she sat in a chair, calmly wiping the blood from her designer heels with a wet wipe. Looking back at Julian's broken form, she gave a cold order. Send him to Mexico. Those cartels love getting new toys like this. Then she left without a second glance. 13 back in her office, Tori's assistant rushed in, his face pale. Ms. Vance, we have no trace of Mr. Thorne's whereabouts. However, there's a rumor he was at the Thorne Corp. branch office in Chicago a few days ago. We might be able to find him there. Tori nodded. As long as he hadn't left the city, she could find him. Good. We're going there first thing tomorrow morning, she commanded. And tonight, make sure the Julian situation is handled. Everything depends on Alex forgiving me. The assistant bowed his head. Yes, Ms. Vance. But what if Mr. Thorne refuses to see you? All the fight seemed to drain out of her, and she slumped in her chair. No, Alex will see me. He loves me. I made a mistake, and he'll forgive me. The assistant quietly backed out of the room, leaving her alone. Tori stared out the window as the sky darkened. Her phone buzzed twice. It was a message from the men she'd hired. It contained a dozen photos and a short video. Julian was a mess. They had broken all of his limbs and tied him to a post. Several snarling dogs were chained nearby. He looked utterly pathetic. A cold smirk touched Tori's lips. The gentle woman she had pretended to be was gone. She hated herself for being so easily fooled by the boy next door. Now that her life was in ruins, she would make damn sure his was over. The next morning, long before the sun came up, Tori was waiting outside the Thorne Corporation Chicago office. In her hands was a lavishly wrapped gift, a vintage signet ring from a historical estate, something I had admired for months. She sat in her car for 3 hours, her eyes fixed on the building's entrance, terrified the security guards would run her off. The long, anxious wait did nothing to diminish her resolve. Right now, she would do anything to win me back, to save her family's company. Alex will forgive me, she chanted under her breath. When he sees how devoted I am, he won't be angry anymore. Yes, Alex loves watches. I'll go back and buy every single one he's ever wanted. I'll promise to never make a mistake again. He loves me too much. He won't be able to stay away. I just made a mistake any woman could make. He can think of it as me having a brief fling. Fine. I won't even care if he sees other women from now on. She repeated these mantras until she seemed to have convinced herself. A faint, confident smile returned to her lips. Ms. Vance, Mr. Thorne's car is here, her assistant said from the driver's seat. Tori's head snapped up. She saw me, surrounded by my assistant and bodyguards, walking towards the entrance. She scrambled out of the car and ran towards me. Alex, wait. I need to talk to you. I gave a cold, simple nod to my assistant, who immediately stepped in to block her path. Ms. Vance, I think we've said everything that needs to be said. You betrayed me. Go find your Julian Croft. In that moment, Tori shed all pretense of being the proud CEO of the Vance Corporation. Her knees buckled, and she fell to the ground, right there on the pavement. I felt nothing. I once loved this woman so much I was willing to stay in this country for her, to give up so much. And she repaid years of devotion with betrayal. The day I found out the truth, I sat in my study all night. On the surface, I was calm, but inside, my world had been shattered. The woman I had loved for years. Of course I was angry. Of course I was hurt. Go away, I said, my voice flat. And don't ever let me see you again. I don't tolerate betrayal. I guess the good life my family gave you made you forget who you really are. So go back to being nothing. My security held her back, preventing her from getting any closer. Tori was sobbing, a mess of tears and desperation, but she refused to get up. Alex, it wasn't my fault. It was Julian. It was all his plan, she wailed. He got me drunk that night. That's why it happened. He threatened me. I was afraid of losing you. I let out a cold laugh. Even now, she was trying to lie. I strode over and grabbed her by the throat, my voice low and dangerous. He got you drunk? Then why didn't you call the police? And don't tell me you didn't enjoy it afterward. Don't tell me your idea of being threatened is setting him up in the hospital room next to mine for convenient late-night hookups. Tori was speechless. She knew she couldn't fool me. She was just trying to run from the truth. Seeing no anger in my eyes, only cold emptiness, a primal fear gripped her. She was losing control. No, she had to try one more time. Alex, please, can we talk in your office? I have something important to show you. I know you'll forgive me. I considered it. Her making a scene out here wasn't good for business. People were starting to stare. Some were already recording with their phones. The Thorne family valued its privacy. Bring her up. At my words, Tori clung to the hope like a drowning woman to a piece of driftwood. In my office, Tori automatically knelt on the floor. Whatever you have to say it. She fumbled for her phone and held it out to me. Alex, I know it was all Julian's fault. You won't forgive me because of him. Don't worry, I've already taken care of him. I glanced at the video on the screen, then chuckled. This woman was truly naive, but I had to admit, she was more ruthless than most men I knew. A shame I couldn't appreciate it. Victoria, how you deal with Julian is your business. It has nothing to do with me. Don't think for a second that this will make me forgive you. Even if you hadn't touched him, I would have made sure he paid. And let me be clear, I hate you. At those words, Tori went limp, slumping to the floor, her face a mask of disbelief. Alex, what did you say? You hate me? I shifted in my chair, taking my time to light a cigarette. I blew a stream of smoke towards the ceiling. Why? Shouldn't I? I said, as much to myself as to her. The best years of my life, completely wasted on a lie. I gave you everything. And how did you repay me? Betrayal, lies, deceit. And even now, you're still trying to spin some pathetic story to manipulate me. Her voice rose, becoming shrill. No. Alex, I do love you. I never meant to betray you. Please, just forgive me this one time. I was growing tired of her performance. I opened a desk drawer, pulled out a file, and tossed it at her feet. She opened it with trembling hands. It was filled with photos. Photos of her and Julian, kissing, embracing, walking into a hotel together. Not a single moment was missed. Many of them were clearly stills from security camera footage. Is that enough for you? Tori had no explanation. She never imagined I would have investigated her so thoroughly. Alex, I cut her off. Security. Get Ms. Vance out of my office. I don't want to see her again. Moments later, Tori was unceremoniously escorted out of the Thorne Corporation building. Her carefully prepared gift was thrown out onto the sidewalk after her. My assistant, seeing my dark mood, quietly brought me a cup of coffee. Mr. Thorne, shall we proceed as planned? I nodded without a word. The Thorne Corporation moved like a well-oiled machine. In the days that followed, Tori camped outside my office building from sunrise to sunset, only leaving when the last light in the skyscraper went out. She was resourceful, I'll give her that. When she realized she couldn't get to me at work, she somehow found the address of the new apartment my assistant had bought for me. I found her kneeling outside my door. She knocked intermittently, but no one answered. When I returned home that evening, she lunged and grabbed my leg. Alex, I'm begging you. As long as you forgive me, forgive the Vance family, I'll do anything. I won't ask you to marry me anymore. I'll be your mistress, anything you want. Just don't destroy my family's company. The sharp crack of my hand across her face echoed in the hallway. Let go of me, you lunatic. I told you we're done. Do you think everyone is like you, in heat 24/7? I slapped her again, and then again. Her face began to swell, but she didn't fight back. She just stared at me, a broken, pitiful smile on her lips. Alex, if this makes you feel better, then do it. Hit me. I really do love you, Alex. I can't live without you, she screamed. At the commotion, my personal security team arrived and quickly restrained her. I looked at the unhinged woman on the floor and turned away without another word. As the door closed behind me, I left her with one final cold truth. Victoria, you don't love me. You don't love Julian. You don't love anyone but yourself. The sound of the door locking was final. Tori collapsed, the memories of the last few years flashing before her eyes. After college, I was supposed to go overseas to take over the family business. For her, I had all but renounced my position as the primary heir to the Thorne empire. And in my family, I was not the only one. The more she thought about the past, the more panic seized her. She knew that when you take what a person treasures most and shatter it before their eyes, you unleash a rage that can consume everything. Soon, Victoria Vance stopped bothering me. The Thorne Corporation mobilized nearly all of its resources to launch a simultaneous hostile takeover of the Vance Corporation's 36 subsidiary companies. Starting with their overseas branches, the battlefront quickly spread across their entire network. Ms. Vance, an assistant, burst into her office. Her eyes lit up with desperate hope. Is it Alex? Is he going to forgive me? The assistant hesitated before telling her the truth. No, Ms. Vance. The Thorne Corporation has begun its attack. Your father has summoned you home immediately. The words seemed to suck the soul from her body. She sank back into her chair, covering her face as silent tears streamed down her cheeks. Her eyes were bloodshot with despair. No, how could Alex be so cruel? How could he destroy everything? The assistant swallowed hard. Ever since the Thorne Corporation had cut ties, Ms. Vance had been a ticking time bomb. But everyone had seen this coming. Your father said to come home right away. Torai put on her jacket and drove to the family mansion. In the living room, her father slammed his hand on the coffee table, his face contorted with fury. You fool! We had a perfect alliance with the Thorne family, and you ruined it. This is the Thorne Corporation we're talking about. Countless women would kill to marry their heir. Hell, they'd kill to be his secret mistress. And you idiot, you drove him away. He threw a dossier at her. Look what you've done. The Thorne Corporation is dismantling us piece by piece. In a month, we'll all be begging on the street. Torai wiped a tear from her eye and dropped to her knees. Dad, I know I made a terrible mistake. I tried to fix it, but Alex won't forgive me. Dad, please, you have to talk to his father. Whatever punishment Alex wants, tell him to direct it at me. Just spare our family. Her father's anger momentarily softened as he looked at his daughter, knowing she had probably tried her best. You idiot. Was a little fling really worth all this? Did you need a cheap thrill that badly? He lamented. After a long moment, he let out a heavy sigh. Forget it. You don't understand. The Thornes never, ever accept betrayal. It's over. With that, he turned and walked back to his bedroom. Within 2 weeks, the business landscape of Chicago had been completely redrawn. The once mighty Vance Corporation melted away like snow in the sun, leaving almost no trace it had ever existed. Sometimes destroying someone is terrifyingly simple. Just as the Vance family had effortlessly disposed of Julian Croft, the Thorne family had done the same to them. The Vance family packed their bags, preparing to disappear to a place where no one knew their name. They never told Tori. She had been cast out, abandoned by her own blood. By the time she realized what was happening, her father had left her with a single, icy message. You made this mess, you clean it up. The Vance family may have more than one heir, but we have no room for one this stupid. She wandered aimlessly and got into a waiting car service. The moment she sat down, the world went fuzzy and she blacked out. When she woke up, the surroundings were both strange and chillingly familiar. Torai began to scream. This was the place. This was where she had sent Julian. No, you can't do this to me. But her struggles were useless. A few local heavies held her down easily. They threw her into a crude wooden shack. There was someone else inside. A man so horribly beaten and broken he was almost unrecognizable. When he saw her, a hoarse, guttural roar escaped his throat. Victoria Vance. Look at you now. Only then did she realize it was Julian. Torai clawed at the door, pounding on it with all her might. Open the door. Please, I'll do anything you want. Just let me out. Just as Julian's hands closed around her throat, squeezing the life out of her, a small window in the door slid open. A familiar face peered in. It was my assistant. Ms. Vance, he said, his voice devoid of emotion. Mr. Thorne asked us to bring you here to be with Mr. Croft. He wishes you both a long and happy life together. Soon, the sounds of a woman's terrified screams and a man's mad roars filled the small shack. And then, All the sounds were consumed by flames. At that same moment, I was standing on a beach in Hawaii, a glass of red wine in my hand, toasting my rebirth.